Hey YouTube, I want to make a video for the We Happy Trans project. I like what they're doing. I think it's a good sort of message, and so I want to participate. And the first question is, what's your name, chosen or otherwise? And my name is Danielle Ava, and that name was chosen actually by my parents. The first name was. That's actually what they would have named me had I been assigned female at birth, but when I wasn't, they named me Daniel instead. And that was my name for her. The first 27 years of my life, though, they always called me Danny, and that was a pretty easy way to transition to Danielle. Not super imaginative with names, because everything that I kept on thinking of was maybe a little hookerish, a little stripperish. Like, that seems to be a common theme with people choosing their names. I don't know why, but I just settled with Danielle. The fourth most, I think, sixth most popular name the year I was born. So really exciting for, getting to start all over or whatever. Who has been most supportive of your transition or gender expression? And I think that this one's a little hard for me to answer because I've really had tons of support from old roommates, my family, my siblings, classmates, things like that. But I think probably one of the most supportive people right off of the bat was my younger brother, and his response was basically, okay, cool, let me know when you want to start using female pronouns. And, he never even kind of made jokes at my expense or anything like that, whereas my older brother would like to tease me a little bit about being a girl now. My little brother has been really great, and has been almost a resource for my parents to use because he's pretty familiar with the queer community. So I think that he has probably been the most supportive person. What do you enjoy most about your life since transition? This one's pretty easy. The answer is waking up every morning. In the past, I didn't want to do that. I had nothing to really look forward to during the day. I had some pretty dark days, lots of depression, some suicidal thoughts, things like that. And since transition, really, basically 3 days into hormones, it was like a whole switch turned off. And I think perhaps the biggest difference now is, I still have plenty of down moments, down days, whatever, but I don't get into the sort of negative downward spiral that used to be really kind of almost instinctual for me before. So if I get rejected from a job or a guy or whatever, it sucks right then and there, but that's when it ends and life goes on. And I think that has been really the best thing, is that the lows aren't as low, but the highs are much higher than they were before. Who are your trans role models? I think the first one is Christine Daniels. So she was a transgender sports writer for the LA Times, and she came out right around the time where I was starting to figure out I was trans, and so I guess this was probably right around late winter, spring of 2007. And because she was a sports writer, I was really into sports growing up. We actually became pen pals, talked a lot about sports, transition, things like that, and it was nice for me to have somebody to speak with who I could kind of really relate to, because a lot of the trans people who I knew about otherwise were not really that sporty type of person. They were always, I don't want to say flaming, but they always kind of knew and were more feminine, and I don't know, it was easy for me to relate with her, and so she was definitely one of the ones I looked up to, because she also did it very, very publicly, by being a sports writer. And unfortunately, she decided to take her own life. But that reading about that even was one of the big drivers for me to go ahead and transition, because I didn't want to end up like that, where I felt like I had no choice, no option, or that I had waited too late to transition or anything like that. And so, yeah. What changes would you most like to see in the world? And these don't have to be sort of trans related, I guess. But this one could really go on and on and on forever. I think having been fortunate enough to have parents who really emphasized education, really put it at premium, to the point where during undergrad I wasn't allowed to work during the school year because they wanted me to get good grades, focus on school, even if that meant they had to support me a little bit more than they would have otherwise. And so the fact that my parents were able to do that and so willing to do that, I know is not always the case with everybody else who's out there. And so I think that access to opportunity is probably the biggest thing that I want to see change, whether that's educational opportunity, work, sort of whatever. I'd really like to see that change, like being half Swedish, coming from a socialist country, like these things are kind of a given, where everybody sort of has these equal opportunities, sort of very egalitarian, whereas the United States is not like that, is increasingly becoming less like that. So I think that seeing that change would be really probably my biggest goal, because then everybody's free to do what they want, right? So I have to admit, I haven't. Question number 6 is, what are you doing to actually kind of make that change happen? To really help the trans community outside of making these videos is looking at employee resource groups within major corporations and how they can be more trans inclusive and how they can help make corporations more trans friendly. So back in October, I actually led a session on employee resource groups and managed to steer the conversation of that panel, which included people from companies like Goldman Sachs, Kraft Foods, Google, I think it was Booz Allen, the consulting group, or maybe just Booz & Co. now, I think, but really big corporations. And there were plenty of people from other companies like Citi, Barclays, Estee Lauder, really big brands, big corporate employers, and just talking with them about how they can make their employee resource groups for LGBT employees more trans inclusive, what they need to talk about, what they need to know, really just how to make it better for trans people. And I think that that's where I can help right now, and hopefully down the road I am working on a memoir of my experience in college, being trans, being involved with drugs, and maybe that book can sort of be, if it gets enough publicity, something of a catalyst to maybe help drive some of these other changes that I'm talking about. Tell us something, anything unique about you, your story, keeping in mind that gender is just one part of the larger project of becoming a fuller, more authentic, complete human being. This one I've actually had to think about for quite a bit, because I don't know what is particularly unique about me. And so I think perhaps the best answer I can come up with is the fact that I am, as far as I can tell, the only person who's ever transitioned while in business school. And so I think there's something like 100,000 people getting MBAs every year, or something like that. Like it's a ridiculously high number of people. Where if you look at the statistics, where it's 1 in 300 something are trans, or 1 in 3,000, then like there should be plenty of us. But I'm, as far as I know, the only one who has done it while in business school, and there's one other person I know of who has transitioned before business school. There are plenty of MBAs who transitioned after business school, but as far as I can tell, I'm the only one who did it in the middle of the process, trying to get a job while transitioning at the same time, like all of that fun stuff. And I think that that made me pretty unique for my classmates. It made, well, very unique for my classmates, but then just from the trans community, sort of as a whole, like just being able to, focus on your work and focus on transition at the same time was really, I think, something unique. I guess. It's kind of lame, but whatever.